That's all good. So tonight I'm going to be reading from Stephen Marsh on writing and failure. A friend of mine gave me this book when I was feeling really sucky about writing. And if you're a writer, you're definitely going to have those moments in your life, like, why am I doing this? This is so incredibly hard. But I think what he has to say tonight is quite elegant and bang on. Writing itself is failure. Even the successes are failures. In the best work, the intentions of the author fall away, leaving an open field for readers to play in, and they create meanings that may have nothing to do with the authors. Jonathan Swift famously intended Gulliver's Travels as an indictment of all humanity, but ended up leaving a story for children. The joy of language is also a torment. Human speech is like a cracked kettle on which we tap crude rhythms for bears to dance to, Flaubert wrote, while we long to make music that will melt the stars. Nobody knows what they're writing. Intention never aligns with result. You never know how readers will react. You never see how readers will react. It's all what quantum physicists call spooky action at a distance. And here we come to the real crux of the matter at last. The spirit and its demon language live in failure. And I'm writing these words now in a dark morning a few days before Christmas. The air has the leaden cold of a Canadian winter, and I've draped myself in a blanket decorated with stitchwork constellations. A strange fog is lifting on the street. Through a fragile and nebulous and tenuous network, these words have arrived with you. Perhaps you brought them, thank you. Perhaps you borrowed them, perhaps you stole them. Perhaps a teacher forced them on you. Perhaps you're in jail, perhaps you're in love. You might be reading them in a dorm room, or in a community space, or at an old folks' home, or on a beach in Belize, or on the subway. Perhaps you're not reading these words at all, because the publisher who commissioned them folded or refused them. I don't know. I can't know. That discrepancy is a torment and a thrill, that resonance that should be impossible. The reader has that thrill too, I know. John Keats wrote Ode on Melancholy for me. Specifically, he wrote it for me at 15. He wrote it for a teenager in a suburb, in a city, in a country, none of which existed at the time of his writing. He may not have known it, but he did. And I do not know who I am writing this for, or what time, or to what purpose, but there is a deep longing in me. It's not a lie, not a fraud, to make those words for you. These ephemeral connections are the substance of victory, to belong to a constellation of meanings, to alleviate a specific, minuscule, cosmic loneliness. It seems like such a small satisfaction to expend your life on it, but it isn't. You ask, why send my scribbles? Ovid in his exile asked. Because I want to be with you somehow, anyhow. And that's really why we're here tonight. It's for connection. We don't know how the words go, we don't know how you take them home, and it doesn't matter, because we're here together and we're listening to each other, and that's why we're doing this.
That's the perfect song for me. So one thing about me, I'm not a writer. I've been told this again and again in my life. Not only from people on my outside world, but from my own inside head. And a dear friend told me not too long ago, and he's now written 40 books. You may have heard of him. His name is Neil Donald Walsh. He wrote a very famous book called A Conversation with God. And I've had a chance to ask him the question, Neil, how do I become a writer? And he said, how dare you not? So tonight is my dare, and how dare I not share a part of my heart with you. This is part of a story of my life. And I'm taking one big step past my fear to share.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's called 7 Seconds to Love. The dash on a gravestone is small, almost invisible. A single line that represents your life story from the day you were born until the day you die, but the dash holds everything. Every moment of love, every connection, every choice, every experience. The dash is where we truly live. It's the story of our lives. I don't remember the first day I was born, but my mother has told me this story 1,000 times. I think she likes to remind me sometimes how hard childbirth was, how she almost died for me, a little mother girl guilt when I don't call her enough. I was her 4th child. She was a pro at giving birth, but this time something went terribly wrong. As she pushed me out into the world, for my very first breath, she gave out. She lost all feeling from her neck down. She thought she was dying. I was taken from her immediately as the doctors worked to save her life. In just seconds, I was torn away from the only thing I had ever known, the steady rhythm of her heartbeat, the sound of love that held me, nurtured me every day of my life. My cries weren't just for food or warmth, they were for love. For the first time, I felt the ache of love lost. And so began my search for love. My name is Jacqueline Way, and I'm an addict. I'm an addict to love. I've spent more years than I'd like to admit chasing love, looking for love in all the wrong places. The love we see in the movies where the prince rides his white horse and sweeps me away happily ever after. The love that validates your experience, making you feel complete. The love that promises to fill every hole in your heart you can't seem to fill yourself. We wait, we pray, we manifest the crap out of that dream relationship in hopes to find our lifeline to love. I remember the first time I found it. It was love at first sight, or so I believed. It took me just seconds to know he was the one. His name was Peter. He was tall, dark, and handsome, a walking Bruce Springsteen song, the kind of guy that made you feel, I am on fire, wasn't just a lyric, but a promise. He stole my heart, and for a while I felt like I was flying, until he smashed it on the floor and reminded me that love hurts like hell. As fast as I fell in love, in just seconds, I was in the pit of despair, trying to claw my way out. I feel like this became the story of my life, chapter after chapter, in and out of love, how fast, how hard. It was that story, and has been that story for many of us. I know I'm not alone, just talk to my girlfriends. We throw ourselves headfirst into love, hoping this time it will be different. We swipe, we search, we scroll, chasing a promise of connection, of happiness, of something that will finally make us feel whole. But what if we're searching for love that actually isn't out there? What if we have love all wrong? I decided to go searching for the answers. I read all the books, I did the courses, I worked with the gurus. They kept repeating the same message. Love comes from within. I read it. I just didn't actually feel it. Until one day, everything changed. On September 29th, 2007, I met my son for the first time. I am an adoptive mom of 4 beautiful boys, but Nick, he was my first, and he transformed the way I understood love. I'll never forget the moment I held him. He was just 11 weeks old, still in foster care. I didn't know what to expect. You just open your hearts, shut off the fear reeling in your head, and you say yes. Yes to the unknown, yes to love. I walked up to the foster mom's door, nervous and excited. My heart was pounding, and when she opened it, she looked down at Nick, and she smiled, and she said, "Meet your mom." My heart exploded. I took him in my arms, and I whispered, "I have been waiting for you. I will love you forever." In just seconds, I realized everything I thought I knew about love was wrong. Love wasn't, "I love you if." if you act a certain way, if you look a certain way, or if you love me back a certain way, it wasn't about filling the gaps in my heart. Love, I realized, is our true nature. Just like that baby I was holding in my arms. He wasn't trying to earn or give love. He was just being love. It was the purest, most unconditional love I had ever felt, because it allowed me to be the same. Just be love. In that moment, I knew that I could feel this way about another human being. Just maybe we all could. It takes just seconds to love, because love is always there, waiting for us. So don't fear it, just say yes to it.
Give it up for Rob. It was Bon Jovi.
Thanks for listening ahead of time. This records just a short episode of my rather unremarkable high school attendance. It's called The Beauty of Truth. Mr. Pearson, our math teacher, wore a green tweed suit, a red tie, and a stern expression. I can still hear his Yorkshire brogue. The beauty of math is truth. I didn't like Mr. Pearson. He was a grey-haired OCD nitpicker. I didn't like math, and as a rebellious 15-year-old was ambivalent about the value of truth. After explaining a concept to us, he would set us to work, always announcing, "While you're working on this particular problem, there will be silence. I don't even want to hear a pin drop." One day, as his words still echoed, a dropped pin rang loud and clear on the parquet oak floor. A tormented grunt flew out of Mr. Pearson. His face flushed crimson, and he propelled himself rapidly up and down the aisles of students, looking for the errant pin so he could pounce on the perpetrator. His pace quickened, became more urgent as he paced past the rows of students. In the nick of time, Eddie Hubbard, sitting in front of me, swiveled his foot 2 inches to cover the errant pin. Our lips pursed white, stomach muscles clenched hard to control sniggers. We studied in strained silence. In the entire year, it was the best thing ever to happen in that tedious, boring math class. If Mr. Pearson had been aiming for truth, he was using the wrong discipline. It's English, not math, that contain the beauty of truth, Mr. Pearson. Numbers do not appeal to the emotions, but truthful words inspire, capture, clarify, and reconnect us to the threads of human experience. Now, grey-haired myself, capturing the truth has become valuable to me as I write, rewrite, and winnow through my scribbled words, sifting, separating, sorting, sweating, cutting, cussing, braiding and burnishing. I delete, quit, drink tea, start afresh, and distill some paragraphs, which finally, now ring with the clear bell of truth. Once distilled, it's unmistakable, like the singular din of a pin falling on a hardwood floor in a silent room.